morning. It's Pop again, Dennis Murray. Today, we're going to do a Popcast 7, and the title is Reality. The reason it comes next in the sequence of Popcasts is because we were talking about the fact that awe is the source of religion, that the great majority of people feel this awe inside our personality, our psychology, and essentially feel gratitude for the gift of life and look for a giver. And we're used to givers being people. So they personify the awe and they have a God with the name and certain other information, and they create various religions. There are some religions that don't personify awe, um, but they're not very popular in the Western world, um, where our mindset is more towards the easier to comprehend specific notion of a personified God as compared to the somewhat subtle mystical notion of an all that isn't a person. I mean, what are the choices if it's not a person? Some kind of a cloud, a force field, something we truly don't in the slightest understand and can't grasp. Um, those are possibilities that some people have invested a good deal of emotional energy in. Um, but for the great majority of people, particularly in the West, they're going to personify this experience. Um, Now, that is fine so long as they remember that they've personified this experience and that the experience of awe isn't the same thing as their personification of it. If you keep the awe separate from your religion, that starts with your personification, then you're less frightened by other people having different personifications. You realize, oh, well, we all went through the same process. We experienced the awe and we created these. Some of us personified the sense of awe and in different ways. But it's everybody's making an effort to do the same thing to come to some kind of grip, some kind of terms with the awe. Um, it is easy to fail to see the difference between the experience of awe and the personification of it that gives rise to various religions. And in that instance, other religions seem kind of threatening. They're not just different interpretations of the awe. It seems like there's something off because you don't see the awe as a separate connection between all of these people with all of these various religions. All you see is the difference. So you want to see the connection, then you have to keep the all separate in your mind, which isn't easy to do. Um, but it's connected to reality, and that's why today's topic is reality. We all want to make some sense of the world that we live in, and we want to know what's our place in it. So, included in making sense of the world is figuring out, well, what's real? What's reality mean? And things like how this all come about, who's in charge, is anyone in charge, what's this awe that I feel, what's my relation to others, the basic questions that you kind of need to have an answer to in order to live your life with any kind of confidence, any kind of comfort. And most of those questions are answered for you as a child by the culture you live in, by your parents. Um, But in time, as a young adult, often and perhaps later in life, you might invest some time thinking about them. One of the things about reality that's really hard to grasp is we have no idea what is real scientifically. Uh, we do, however, get an idea of reality when we personify the all, because now we have a creator that is a person. We can at least have some kind of notion about what that involves. We say, as a part of our religions, all the religions of the West, at least say that, well, look, actually, this is an ineffable God. This is a God who is at heart unknowable. And some religions don't allow any images because they were thought to be misleading. Others, the Christian religion in particular, has a lot of images and very concrete ideas about um, the personification of this God. But one of the things about personifying this experience of awe is it also gives you a grasp of reality at the same time. Oh, well, reality is that everything came to be because this creator made it so. And the details after that are considerably less important. Um, when we use our science side of our psychological skills to try and look at the world as objectively as possible, um, we run into a problem in that science used to think it knew what reality was, but as time goes by, increasingly it's becoming aware that it doesn't have a grasp on what reality is because it seems to be too subtle. So they've run into the notions that what we see as a solid table and chair are really largely voids held together by um, uh, principles of the world of physics, so that they give the appearance of solids, but they're mostly empty space. Um, so then they went below that and they found a variety of things. Um, and they came up with quantum notions and notions about uncertainty and indeterminacy. And at this point, after the last 35 years or so of trying to come up with some approach that would make sense of things, they haven't given up, but they're not having a lot of luck. And they're reluctantly conceding that really they can't define reality and they don't claim to understand it. They're still looking at it. So the science side isn't going to provide an answer. The, our personification of awe does give us some idea of reality. You know, the details don't really matter. Reality is what this personal God created and for which we're quite grateful, including ourselves and our lives and each other and all the wonderful things of human life. But if you can imagine, you don't really have to have that personification, though it's quite comfortable to have. If you can imagine that the awe somehow is all that's real, it's some kind of creative goodness that isn't a person. We wouldn't know how to describe it. We wouldn't know how to address it. We wouldn't know how to give thanks as easily as we do when we personify it. But it would mean that reality is the existence of this creative goodness that we experience as all. So reality is connected to whether we personify this creative experience. And yet we could have reality, we could have a working, comfortable knowledge of reality with or without personifying. this experience of awe. And I think that's enough for today. Just over 10 minutes. Thanks. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.